And now we have our regular slot from Pittsburgh with the lovable libertarian Dimitri, the man with his finger on the pulse of American politics. As you'll probably be aware, his show is usually in two sections. He starts off with a monologue and then finishes with an interview. His monologue this week is primarily on the Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton presidential debate and who won it. And that's followed by an interview which you really mustn't miss with Kathy Lynn Taylor, the author of Red is the New Black.
Thiscarstillworks.com, shadydeals.co.uk. Is it meant to sound like that, .uk? Sure, I'll get my money back, .gr. Why risk buying online when you can get a Renault deal? All our used cars come with a 12-month warranty and breakdown assistance and a 30-day no-quibble exchange policy, in case you change your mind. Visit our Renault-approved used car sales event from the 1st to the 10th of October. Retail customers only. Participating dealers only. T's and C's apply. See usedcars.renault.co.uk.
Blog Talk Radio.
Last night I'm watching the debate along with about 90 million other of my fellow Americans, and it was fascinating. It really was. I predicted that it was going to be anticlimactic, and in many ways it was, because, again, I'd figured this was the first debate, and both of them had a lot to lose. Both had high negatives. It's a tight race, not much of a margin of error. Plus, both were trying to get their favorability ratings a little bit better than what they were. So I didn't think they'd be taking too many chances, and they didn't. It was still very interesting. It was sort of like watching, like in the Olympics. You've got the fencing, that they wear white and they wear that mask, and then they've got the swords and they try to hurt each other, although not really. I think there's something electronic that happens before they kill each other. So you've got one person doing fencing, which would be your Hillary Clinton. The other person doing a shot put, which would be your Donald Trump. And here you have someone fencing and somebody else throwing a shot put, and they're in the same competition. So who wins? Who wins? Well, on debate points, Hillary won. There's no question. Also, she actually looked okay. She didn't look sick. She didn't fall down in 90 minutes, which, bravo, girl, bravo. And so she did very well that way. Donald Trump also did well because he wasn't foaming at the mouth, and he didn't insult hardly anybody for the most part. And so he did okay, too. He was on the same stage, the same footing, if you will, with the Secretary of State, former U.S. Senator and all that kind of stuff. So each scored points, and, of course, each had foot faults. So I'll talk with you all about that. Also tonight, I hate to toot my own horn. I mean, everybody knows what kind of humility I have, but I don't know how else to say this, because I've been talking about this for weeks, probably months now, about President Barack Obama and how no one in the establishment media, heck, nobody in the media that I'm aware of, ever connected him to the Hillary unsecured server scandal. And I kept saying for months, you got to look at President Barack Obama. He had to know. He absolutely had to know. This was an open secret. Why is everybody blaming Hillary for this? Well, I mean, I know why they blame her because, she did this. But the person who really should get the blame is President Barack Obama, because he knew. Now, how did I know that he knew? It's the process of, not the process of elimination. Well, maybe it is. But essentially, it wasn't what I was seeing. It's what I was not seeing. So I want to talk with you about that, because of some latest emails that have just exposed the lie that I predicted this. I actually predicted this. All right, I'm here at the lifepedigree.com studio at the intersection of freedom and fun. And that's trademark, service mark, copyright, patent pending, don't steal it. I'm Dimitri, the lovable libertarian. Trademark, service mark, copyright, don't steal it. We do our show weeknights, 9 p.m. Eastern time on blogtalkradio.com and on Facebook Live. Last night we didn't because, the debate, presidential debate. I mean, who's going to watch me when they can watch this great, incredible theater? Now, I did a lot of live, not tweeting, but, lots of comments throughout the debate, and had a lot of interesting feedback from a lot of my Facebook friends, and I appreciate all of that. So talk with you about that as well. Wells Fargo, and let's see, was there anything else? No, I think those are the main points. Great interview. Kathy Lynn Taylor, she wrote Red is the New Black, and she does great radio. I really, really like talking with her. And so we talked about the debate, her analysis. She was on Fox News. In fact, she was, I believe, the first commentator that Fox News had, the Fox News channel, after the debate. She got on like 1 in the morning, but she was like the first one, and she looks great. And so I thought, okay, let's try to get her. She was the first one. And so we did. So I've got this interview, this great interview with Kathy Lynn Taylor. Buy her book, Red is the New Black. All right, so we have all of that. LifePedigree.com studio, I mentioned that. Oh, at the end of the show. For the Facebook Live part of it, not the Blog Talk Radio part of it, we'll do our emoji grand finale. And I do have the music that I downloaded from the iTunes store. And so what we do at the end of the show is we have everyone doing lots and lots of emojis, like an explosion of emojis. It's really great. And we had the music, the fireworks music. It's the 1812 Overture, which was written by some Russian guy, which I don't know what he had to do with the War of 1812, which, by the way, we didn't do too well with the War of 1812. You know the Canadians kicked our ass? Can you imagine? They kicked our ass. We went up there trying to take over Canada. The Canadians kicked our ass. Can you imagine? Anyway, so this whole 1812 Overture thingy. So we have all of that. Let's see. What else was I going to tell you? I think that's it. All right. Well, let me say hello to all my Facebook friends who have joined us. Again, we're on Facebook Live. I look over to my left because that's where the studio is, all the software for blogtalkradio.com, and then, of course, here for Facebook Live. All right, so let's see. We've got Wayne joining us. Hello, Wayne, and Jim, and Robert, and Christopher. Hillary didn't win. Well, actually, both won, and both had foot faults. It's a complicated thing last night. It was very complicated, and I predicted a lot of people would be disappointed because there weren't going to be great fireworks. Because again, with that first debate, they both had too much to lose. No margin of error. So I knew they were going to play it safe. And Donald Trump actually played it safer than Hillary Clinton because he had a lot of opportunities to really attack, and he didn't. Now, either he blew it or he purposely held back. I think it's a little of each. But I did predict it was going to be very disappointing to a lot of people because it wasn't going to be this big, crazy thing that everyone in the media was hyping and hyping and hyping. I said, watch out because they have too much to lose. There's no margin of error. Don't be surprised if they actually try to like each other. And at parts they did, and there are not that many fireworks. There's a lot of nuance type stuff and about fact checking and this, that, and the other. But they weren't lobbing missiles at each other, and I predicted it. So I was actually doing pretty well with predictions lately. That's kind of a surprise. Anyway, so we've got Patricia. Hello, Patricia, and Desmond again, terrific, and Jimmy from Brooklyn, Carl and Kimberly. Hello, Kimberly. Jimmy, okay, Christopher, Kirk Cross, great guy. Keith from Phoenix, where it's a dry heat, of course. Let's see, Christopher saying that Obama is calling my name. Name calling is something that I try to discourage among my Facebook friends. I like to reserve that just for me. But you know, what are you going to do? Steve has joined us, and David, and Mike. Oh, my goodness gracious. Mike and Aaron, and Kimberly and Eric again, and Bruce. Oh, my gosh. What a great turnout tonight, Dave. All right. Oh, this is fantastic. All right, great. So let's get started with the debate. Picture in the Olympics, somebody fencing against somebody throwing a shot put. That was the competition last night. You've got Hillary Clinton fencing, and she was pretty good at it. First, again, she was able to stand for 90 minutes, did not look feeble, seemed rested, seemed well on her game. Give her a lot of points. Absolutely, give her a lot of points. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what the over-under was in terms of the number of minutes before she would start coughing or if she would just, keel over. So she didn't do either one of those things, which is very good. She scored debate points. I thought she won the debate in terms of debate points. Now, there's a nuance here. Donald Trump, on the other hand, was not fencing. He was throwing a shot put. So you've got, like in an Olympic setting, you've got a fencer against a shot putter, which is kind of interesting, but kind of weird. How do you score it? I don't know. Donald Trump threw the shot put a few times. I think he had some foot faults, as did Hillary. All in all, as a theater, as a debate, I'd give it about a C+. About a C+. Yeah, it was okay, Both had to be very cautious. As I predicted, no margin of error. The first one, no margin of error. The election is still too close. There's still 2 more to go. A lot can happen. You got to play it safe. And I think for the most part, they both played it fairly safe. Now, Lester Holt, don't get me started on him, but, well, I'll get started on him in just a bit. All right, so we have that. Donald Trump missed a lot of opportunities. How many of them he missed on purpose versus how many he was holding back, I don't know. My guess is he missed more just by screwing up, by making a mistake, I guess is a better way of saying this. I think he made a lot of, not even unforced errors. He had a lot of opportunities that he did not take advantage of. That's really the right way to say this. And I think those were mistakes, but it's the first debate. And so you still have plenty of time to, fire all your ammunition and all of that. Trump, at least 2 or 3 times, went out of his way to say that he agreed with Hillary regarding, I forget what now, but they were still combative, back and forth, but not real hard stuff, not really hard stuff at all, as again, I had, predicted. At the end of the debate, I could see where if you're scoring it as a debate, if it's like in college, you're doing a debate contest, Hillary would have won because she scored more points. She actually had Donald Trump answering to her. He was on the defensive. And when you're on the defensive in a debate, typically that's not a good place to be. And frankly, I was surprised because Donald Trump is so aggressive. But I think he was on the defensive last night because he was holding back. He was holding back. I think that was by design. And one of the drawbacks in holding back is what you saw last night. But when you look at virtually all of the polls, the internet polls, not scientific, but just a lot of the internet polls, he won overwhelmingly. Again, not scientific, but it does give you some idea of how passionate his supporters are. Now, there were, I think, 2 scientific polls, and each, I think, surveying registered voters or something like that. And Hillary did very well with those. But it's really interesting because a debate isn't a presidential debate. A presidential debate isn't about scoring points as much as it is winning over the viewers. It's all about TV. It's all about winning over the viewers. Does anybody know who won that famous debate in 1984? Because you saw the clips all the time about President Reagan saying that he wasn't going to take advantage of Walter Mondale's youth and inexperience. And everybody's going, ha, ha, ha. Does anybody know who actually won that debate? I don't. Think of all the key moments in any presidential debate and ask yourself, yeah, but who won the debate? Nobody knows because nobody cares. Presidential debates are different. Yes, you can score points and all that, but the viewers aren't looking for that. They're looking for something else. They're looking for some big emotional impact thing. Did either one of them do it last night? Hillary Clinton, certainly not. That's just not her style. She's a fencer. She's policy and process and score points here, score points there. And she was very good at that. There's no question. Donald Trump maybe, but I'm not even sure about that last night, maybe had more of an impact because, again, he's the shot putter. And he put several things out there about Hillary Clinton's email. But even then, it did not have anywhere near the dramatic impact that it could have. So it's kind of a toss-up here. But when the next 2 debates come for the presidential debates, don't think so much about who's scoring points in a regular old debate. Because, again, chances are you don't know who actually had the better debate in any presidential debate as far back as you can remember. What we all remember are the key moments of one line or one statement or one thing that really broke through. And the person who does that may not necessarily be the one who's won the debate. And so the jury is still out. But what's interesting is that Donald Trump was on the same stage with Hillary Clinton, and did not make a fool of himself, as Hillary Clinton and her supporters were suggesting that he would. He behaved himself, and Hillary, give her a lot of credit. She looked fine. She looked rested. She was focused. She had a very good accounting of herself. So lots of different little things to take away with this. Nothing overwhelming. Nothing overwhelming, other than maybe you could make the argument that what was really interesting is that Donald Trump pulled back the reins. And when I'm saying pulling back the reins, I'm not referring to that great Katie Lang song, which I love, but instead just pulling back the reins. He actually was able. What you saw on that debate stage last night, which I think a lot of people missed, is that Donald Trump, in his own way, was showing remarkable restraint. He referred to Hillary Clinton several times as Secretary Clinton. He did not disparage her the way that he brutalized a lot of his Republican opponents in the debate. He didn't do that with her. He was pulling back the reins. And I thought that showed a lot of restraint, because that's not part of his DNA. Part of his DNA is to attack. Somebody hits me, I hit them back harder, which I like, because that's kind of how I am. That is how I am. You hit me, and I will kill you. I will try to kill you. And that's how he normally is. But he wasn't last night. And so what I think we saw here was Donald Trump showing a lot more discipline than most of the commentators realized. Now, with that discipline, with that holding back, he was also holding back on attacking Hillary. And he had a lot of opportunities. And maybe it was nothing more than he made mistakes, and if he had it to do over again, he would have attacked. Maybe. We'll see. But I think more than likely, what we were seeing, even though few people realized it, is that Donald Trump was showing discipline. He was pulling back the reins. It was Secretary Clinton. He agreed with her 2 or 3 different times. It really surprised me. He went out of his way to say, well, we actually agree on this and that and all that. I think there's a lot more to Donald Trump's performance, even with all its flaws. There was a lot more to his performance last night than most commentators have noticed. They just thought, well, he just kind of blew it. He didn't take advantage of this, that, and the other. And it's true, he didn't. But I think the main reason was because his whole game plan, pull back the reins some and know that, okay, you're not going to take all the shots that you could take, or maybe you're not quite on your game because you're not in your typical attack mode, but he pulled back the reins, and he did that throughout the debate. I'm not saying that he won a prize as Mr. Congeniality or anything like that. No, but for Donald Trump, I thought he showed a lot of restraint. And I don't think too many people in the media, the talking heads, the political pundits or whatever, I don't think too many caught that. They just said, well, Hillary certainly won on points, and she did this, that, and the other, had him, backing up and all that, which is true. But I think the other half of that, what was really going on, is that Trump was going against the grain regarding his character, his aggressiveness, and he was able to actually pull back the reins. And so what happened at the end of the evening? At the end of the evening, they shook hands and whatever. And so we were left with Donald Trump was on the same stage as Secretary Hillary Clinton. He did not embarrass himself, no big faux pas, nothing like that. Could have been better, could have been more aggressive, whatever, but no screw-ups. And if you're picturing yourself, all right, could I actually see this guy with his finger on the button? Well, he didn't do anything last night to suggest that he was somehow irrational, that he couldn't control himself. He was actually, really, when you think about it, he was controlling himself a whole lot better than I think people realize. Now, we'll see what happens with the next debate. And the next debate is what's really going to be important is, what's the polling going to look like by the time we have the next debate? Because that'll give you a really good indicator of what we could expect. But with this one, because the polling, as I predicted, it wasn't some, great big fireworks thing. Even though the media hype, Jesus God, the media hype. But I kept telling you, no. It's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like that. Much more nuanced, much more friendlier than people realize. And that's exactly what happened. So it's not often that I get anything right. If you know anything about my life, you know that's true. But I think I got this one right. Kimberly is saying, my attorney still called him a bully, completely out of touch and blinded by his hatred for Trump. He's a smart guy, too. Go figure. Trump was a gentleman. I don't think Trump came across like a bully last night. And even if he did, and this is the interesting thing, because a lot of the feminists want it both ways. They want to be treated like men. And then when you treat them like men, they'll bitch about, well, you're a bully and you're a misogynist or whatever. I mean, I'm so sick of that game. Jesus. If Donald Trump treated Hillary Clinton the way that he brutalized Jeb Bush and then little Marco and then, Lion Ted on the stage, if he had done that to Hillary, I guarantee you that everybody would have said, oh, he was such a bully and he was so unfair to her because she's a woman and all that. Either women want to be treated equally as men, or they want to have special privileges and, oh, don't treat me that way. Like, you can't have it both ways. Although Hillary and her supporters try to have it both ways. So I thought he showed a lot of restraint. Hillary won the debate, regular debating points. There's no question. And she looked pretty good. In fact, I hate to admit, I did this once before, but you see clips over the years. I mean, when you have stories about Donald Trump or about Hillary Clinton, they'll show you video, they'll show you photos of what they were like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever it happens to be. And I must tell you, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but it's true. Hillary Clinton, back in the day, I thought looked great. I mean, she looked, really, really good looking. I mean, again, set aside all the ethical issues and all the baggage and slime that comes with her and all that. Just physically, her face and talking, she was very attractive. A lot of people, I don't think, realize that or don't even want to think about it. But she really was. I thought so. Now she's a lot older. She has not aged well, but then again, neither have I. But last night she looked, fine. I mean, she's almost 70 years old. Back, and try not to think about her collapsing on 9/11 and all the coughing and all the other, the blood clots and all the, medical stuff. If you simply took a snapshot of last night, she's wearing that red pantsuit thing with that weird stuff in the back. I don't know what the heck was going on there, going down her spine up to her hip. There was some weird thing going on there. But for a 68-year-old woman, really, she looked pretty good, I thought. I mean, really pretty good. And again, I'm no fan of Hillary Clinton and all that, but, in her youth, I thought she was really, really good looking. So, I don't know. All right, so we'll see what the next debate has in store. Let me see. Jimmy's saying, good looking, you're drinking, bro. No, I don't drink. And yes, Hillary Clinton, there are a lot of pictures of her back in the day, and I thought she was very good looking. I really did. I mean, I don't know. After Nancy and Barbara, she wasn't too bad, but she didn't age well. Well, who's aging well? I mean, let's be honest about this. Kimberly saying she looked good last night. True, she held her own, right? But I was expecting her to topple over. Yeah, that was the most interesting thing to me. I was thinking, okay, is she going to start coughing, or is she just going to topple? Like, just go over. Well, she didn't, and Donald Trump didn't foam at the mouth, so draw. This is how we choose the leader of the most powerful nation in the history of the human race. This is how we do it. Is she going to topple over? Is he going to foam at the mouth? Topple over, foam. Topple, foam, draw. Anyway, Christopher, why do you think Hillary looked good? Well, I thought for a 68-year-old woman, she looked quite good. And in her day, back in the day, I thought she looked great. I really did. I mean, I just do. I set aside my politics when it comes to beauty, when it comes to women, and the way they look. I mean, Jane Fonda, even though I disagreed with a lot of her stuff, just a lot of her stuff. I mean, she was just absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Susan Sarandon, I don't know what it is about Susan Sarandon, but man, there's just something about Susan Sarandon, even though she's up there now in years, that is just, I don't know what it is. There's always something with Susan Sarandon, even from her days at the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You took a look at her, and there was just something about her, Susan Sarandon. So I don't know. Jennifer Aniston never did it for me. Never did it for me. Angelina Jolie never did it for me. Kathleen Turner back in the day, Body Heat, did it for me. Maggie Gyllenhaal, I keep forgetting her last name, in that really weird, interesting film, Secretary. She did it for me. I have very odd taste when it comes to women and beauty and all that kind of stuff and sexiness and all that. I just have my own little path that I follow. Anyway, let's see here. Let me tell you about Life Pedigree, because I'm here in the lifepedigree.com studio, and I'm not going to tell you that until I get some water, because I got a little thing going here. Excuse me. So, lifepedigree.com. If you have a business and you've got openings, you've got people who are sending you stuff, resumes and all that, chances are that you don't know how to read a resume. I mean, not really know how to read a resume. I mean, yes, you're a functional illiterate. You can, read, there are vowels, there are consonants. I can put them together, sound it out. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how to, analyze a resume to see who's really telling you the truth. Because there are a lot of people out there who lie. Some of them are very good liars. Some are really stupid liars. Jesus, they're stupid. But the smart ones, you got to watch out for those. So it could take you forever to figure out if the person actually was in the military, got an honorable discharge, was not in prison, did actually go to school and got what kind of degrees, and on and on and on. LifePedigree.com will do that for you. They've got the economies of scale. They know who to call. They know how to access all the databases. They do it very quickly for a very, very low price. So here's what you do. Instead of wasting all your time trying to figure out who's telling the truth with these resumes, because you want to weed out the people who are lying, just send the resumes to lifepedigree.com. Lifepedigree.com does all the work, certifies the good resumes, sends them all back to you, and again, for a very, very, very low price. And then you can choose from the good resumes who to interview and then who to hire. Lifepedigree.com. Send them an email. Here's the email address. sales@lifepedigree.com. sales@lifepedigree.com. And on the subject line, or in the subject line rather, put in Dimitri. That's my name. That's spelled with 3 I's. Dimitri. Dimitri. And the reason for that is that lifepedigree.com will know that you're part of the Dimitri ecosystem, which means about 5,500 friends and followers on Facebook, another 12,000 or so followers on Twitter. We're almost up to 10. Oh, I forgot to mention this. blogtalkradio.com. We're up to just 10,000 listens, with our streaming that we do every weeknight, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're almost at 10,000 listens. Now, I don't know how many of those are new people, how many are repeat. That, we don't know, but 10,000 listens is like an amazing number, especially on that platform. We have got so many great shows. So lifepedigree.com knows that if you are part of the Dimitri ecosystem, first, you're real. It's not a spam account or a hoax account like some of those fake accounts. They're all real, and that the people are substantial because they checked you out. So by all means, put Dimitri in the subject line, and you're in like Flynn. There's no question. Lifepedigree.com. Sales@lifepedigree.com. Very good people, very good company, a wonderful idea, very low price. So by all means, do it. Or don't do it and then run the risk of hiring some lying deadbeat, and then good luck with that. All right, that's lifepedigree.com. Next. I had been talking about this with you for months, or at least weeks, and I think months, at least months. And that is the Hillary Clinton rogue server, the unsecured server, and all the scandals that happen like almost every day. And I said that, it's really amazing to me that no one in the establishment media, in fact, no one in the media that I can recall, I mean, like anyone, because I'm on Twitter a lot and Facebook and all that, and I can't recall one other person, although those people might exist, but I don't know who they are. To the best of my knowledge, nobody else has been hammering this point home, and that is, I've been saying for weeks, I think months now, that it amazes me that the person who is ultimately responsible for all the problems with the Hillary Clinton server has not been held accountable by anyone, by the establishment media, by politicians inside the Beltway, either party. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, who on earth are you talking about, Dimitri? It's got to be Hillary Clinton. She did all of this. Well, yes, she did all of this, but no, I'm not talking about her. I was talking about the president. Yeah, the president of the United States, Barack Obama. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, what does he have to do with this? Because I haven't heard his name in any of these stories or anything like that. I mean, it's Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin, or Mrs. Carlos Danger and Cheryl Mills and all these other people. There's just no mention of President Barack Obama. What does he have to do with this? And I've been telling you here at One Dimitri Radio for a very long time now, he has everything to do with this. It is inconceivable. It is inconceivable that he did not know what was going on with Hillary Clinton's server. Again, she's the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State. And you're telling me that the White House, with all of their really, really smart guys and all their IT guys and the NSA and all the Pentagon and all these different really, really smart, well-educated, brilliant people, none of them could figure out that Hillary Clinton was a royal screw-up when it came to her email and her server and her BlackBerries. She wasn't even trying to hide this, is the thing. I mean, this was like an open secret. And everybody had to know. They just had to know. And I've been trying to hammer this point home. It's like, my God, am I the only one who's getting this thing? Why can't you see that this problem here is President Barack Obama? And as evidence, this is the thing, one of the things that I'm really good at is, well, actually, I'm bad at a lot of things, but one of the few things that I'm good at is figuring out what's missing. I love that story, I think it's called Silver Blaze, about Sherlock Holmes, and he was trying to figure out who stole a horse, a racehorse. Silver Blaze, I guess is the name of the horse. And he interviewed all these people, and there was one common element in all of the interviews. Spoiler alert, I'll give you 5 seconds here if you want to tune out here on blogtalkradio.com or Facebook Live. Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2, Mississippi 3, Mississippi 4, Mississippi 5. Okay, spoiler alert. So he gets all these interviews. He's talked to all these people, trying to figure out who stole this horse. And there was one common denominator. But it wasn't anything, I love this part of it, it wasn't anything that anyone said. The one common denominator was the one thing no one said. See, there was this watchdog that was there with the horse. And Sherlock Holmes is interviewing all these people, and they're telling him, well, this is where I was at this time, and this, and he's reviewing all the notes, and then it dawns on him, no one said that the watchdog barked. That was the common denominator, the one common denominator. And it wasn't that anyone said anything, it's that everyone didn't say that. Well, if the horse is going to be stolen and you've got a watchdog, why didn't anybody hear the dog barking? Because watchdogs tend to bark, especially those little yappy ones. Jesus, they just drive you crazy. Well, if a watchdog did not bark, Sherlock Holmes, he's a really smart guy, well, for an English guy on heroin, he figured out that the watchdog did not bark because he recognized the person who stole the horse. And therefore, he figured out, who did it. I just love that story. And I kept talking with you about this. And again, I can't believe no one else has done this. I kept asking, look at all the emails, everything. We're talking about tens of thousands of emails regarding Hillary Clinton and the unsecured server, and I kept asking, what's missing? What is missing here? Well, the one thing that was missing was email from President Barack Obama, even though she was his Secretary of State. To me, it was inconceivable that there were not emails from the President of the United States. And yet, every news story, everything that we've read, I mean, everything, you'd hear, Sidney Blumenthal this, and, Carlos Danger that, and all these things, but never email from the President of the United States. That's the dog that didn't bark. He had to be sending her emails. But there weren't any of these emails. And because of that, I feel like Sherlock Holmes here. Because of that, I absolutely was convinced and have shared with you that he had to have known. He had to have known. Otherwise, we would have seen his emails. Well, with the latest document dumped by the FBI, and FBI is such a horrible organization. They're such political whores. They're just the worst. We find out now, and of course the established media is downplaying it, the President Barack Obama was using an alias to send email to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Can you believe this? An alias? Not only is that tacky beyond belief, but it's actually quite disturbing for a couple of reasons, several reasons. One, that means he knew that her server was unsecured. Why would he send email with an alias? And he's sending it to that server. He knew it was unsecured. And because of that, now that we know this, now this whole FBI thing makes even more sense than it did a few days ago. A few days ago, the FBI with the Department of Justice got together, and long story short, they gave immunity to 5 people, all pretty much the most important people in this whole horrible scandal. And yet, and I think at least 1, maybe 2 of the people also pleaded the Fifth Amendment. I mean, just absolutely horrible stuff, one after the other. Bottom line is that no one is going to be charged. There was no grand jury investigation. There was no nothing. Everybody is going to get off scot-free. And at the time, most people thought, well, it's the FBI, the Department of Justice protecting Hillary Clinton. Completely understandable. But now that we know that the president was sending email using an alias, he had to know. What really went on now that we know the rest of the story, all this stuff with the DOJ and the immunity and, pleading the Fifth and all that, it wasn't so much to protect Hillary Clinton. It was to protect the President of the United States. That's what this is really all about. As I had said for months, he had to know. He had to know. And Hillary Clinton's people had to know that he knew. And so for them to get immunity and all that, it's not so much to protect Hillary Clinton, but to protect the President of the United States. Now it all makes sense. Now we know why there were no emails from the president to this unsecured server, even though she was his Secretary of State. Now we know why, or we can assume, we can infer, it's very simple. He's sending her emails, but using an alias. It's all rigged. It's been rigged. I didn't realize how high it went until the latest document dump. This wasn't to protect Hillary Clinton anywhere near as much as it was to protect the President of the United States, because he knew. This happened not only on his watch, but he had to know, or else you'd have seen all these emails coming from the president, and he's going to go, oh my God, I had no idea her email, the server and this, that, and the other, but you didn't see any of them. He had to know. And all these immunity deals and all the pleading the Fifth and everything, it's to protect the president. It's just god-awful. It's just god-awful. But remember, you heard it here first. Weeks ago, I think months, literally I think it was months ago, but at least weeks ago, when I kept hammering away, it's like, why can nobody else see this? Why is nobody else talking about this? because it's plain as day. Here it is. It's the dog that didn't bark. Here it is. Now we know. He was sending her email. And he was doing it using an alias. He's sending her email. He knows her server's not secure. And the President of the United States is still doing this. And the moment he sends that first one, that means that Hillary knows, and all of Hillary's people know that he knows. So they better get immunity. They better get out of jail free card, or else they're not going to turn on Hillary. They're going to turn on him. That's what this is all about. And frankly, I'm amazed that more people haven't figured this out. I really am. I'm just absolutely stunned. Absolutely stunned. Anyway, let's see here. What else? Wells Fargo. Again, I've got a great interview for you. It's Kathy with a C, Kathy Lynn Taylor. She's the author of Red is the New Black. You may have seen her last night on the Fox News channel, right after the debate and after, I think, Sean Hannity's show or whatever, but around 1 a.m, I think it was. They started with this whole live thing, to analyze the debate. She was one of the first panelists, and she was wearing this lovely white virginal dress and all that, and she's very cute. And she was talking and all this kind of stuff. And I've had her on before, and she's great radio. So I had her on today, and we talked about that, and also plugged her book, Red is the New Black. Buy a few copies. Do her a favor. And so I've got this great interview for you. You'll hear that on the Blog Talk radio side of One Dimitri Radio. And then we'll end the Facebook Live part of it with our emoji grand finale, and I've got the music and all that, so it's going to be great. This Wells Fargo story is really interesting, and it actually ties into the presidential campaign, even though no one is making that connection yet, at least not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen anything yet. But to me, it's like, oh, my God, here's another important element in this campaign. Has anybody else figured this out yet? Wells Fargo is this big deal bank financial company, and I guess based in California, named after that stagecoach thing with the horses and, back in the Wild West days. Turns out it's a big bank thing. Lots of money. Well, what Wells Fargo did, and I've got the story right here. I actually did a little prepping for the show tonight, which frankly amazed me. Wells Fargo was fined $185 million. Why? Well, because thousands of their employees, thousands as in 5,500 employees, had been creating fake accounts for consumers, checking accounts, credit card accounts, consumers like you, or more troubling, me, other regular folks. Wells Fargo, try to wrap your mind around this. Wells Fargo had, in fact, they fired roughly 5,300 employees for doing this. Yes, they fired 5,300 employees so far for doing this. They're creating fake accounts. They're creating fake credit scores, all sorts of stuff. The customers don't even know that the accounts are being opened on their behalf, or their credit card things or whatever. They're getting charges they don't understand. It could be affecting their credit scores. They have no idea. I mean, this is really bad stuff on a grand scale. 5,300 people fired so far doing this kind of stuff. And it was, of course, driving up the price of the stock, and many people were making lots of money and meeting their bonuses and all this kind of stuff. Horrible, horrible stuff. Well, finally, somebody gets wind of this and goes, oh, I think that's wrong. And so the government comes in and charges Wells Fargo $185 million. Now, the CEO, who apparently also is the president of the board of directors, he pretty much runs everything. I forget the guy's name. I've got it here somewhere. I had it here. Well, whatever. This guy goes before Congress, the Senate, some Senate hearing, and he says, "Oh, I'm really sorry. We'll get this thing worked out. Blah 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 blah. And I'm going to forego my $41 million bonus and all that. $41 million bonus. Can you imagine a bonus of $41 million? Jesus. So here you have this CEO in charge of Wells Fargo, who has fired more than 5,000 employees because they're creating these fake accounts, screwing over people, ruining their credit scores, doing God knows what to their credit scores, and effectively stealing money. And yet, now, Wells Fargo paid a fine, $185 million. And this guy is going to forego his $41 million. But it's sort of like the dog that didn't bark. What are you not hearing? What are you not hearing in this story? Well, it's the same thing you did not hear during the period of Wall Street bailouts that started at the end of the Bush administration and then continued into the Obama administration with all these Wall Street firms that lost umpteen gazillion dollars. It's the same thing you did not hear then that you're not hearing now. It's the dog that didn't bark. I'll give you a hint. Jail. Jail. Nobody goes to jail. With the Wall Street bailouts, with all these companies that just did all these horrible things, the banksters, nobody went to jail. And now with Wells Fargo, 5,300 employees fired, creating these false accounts, essentially making money out of it, essentially stealing, just one form of stealing. The CEO is still the CEO. He's going to forego his $41 million bonus. But no one's going to jail. Nobody goes to jail. If a bank robber, if I put on a mask or did one of these, things and, give me all your money, as a bank robber. If a bank robber goes into Wells Fargo and steals $5,000, and it doesn't blow up in his face because they've got those explosive powdery blue thingies or whatever. God, being a bank robber must be so hard these days. Anyway, so let's say a bank robber. Let's say me. I go into a Wells Fargo branch and I steal $5,000. The police will arrest me probably within a matter of like 5 seconds because, well, I'm an idiot. I mean, I wouldn't even know what to do or where to go. I'd probably turn myself in just to get the reward money because I'm always thinking. And I'd go to jail because I broke the law. I stole money. And yet here you've got the CEO of Wells Fargo overseeing this giant scam. I bet you he's a lawyer. And nobody goes to jail. He's too big to jail. Wells Fargo is just too big to jail. It's an astonishing story. And I'm amazed that the establishment media hasn't done more to talk about this thing. Because you talk about a poster boy for everything wrong with the banksters, with the insiders. They've rigged everything. God, they've rigged everything. So what does this have to do with the election? This is kind of where I call it back and kind of tie it all together here for you in this harmonic convergence of whatever this is. This actually ties in beautifully with Donald Trump's message. Yes, Donald Trump is a billionaire, but he's a blue-collar billionaire. He's not one of those guys on Wall Street. He's not one of those guys in Manhattan. He's really from Queens. That's who he is. He's not one of them, the elites. He's one of the people that the elites just don't like. He's not one of them. Never will be. This Wells Fargo thing, well, don't be surprised if Donald Trump doesn't start talking about this, because it ties in beautifully with his message that the system is rigged, that the insiders are working all the angles, that some people are just too big to jail, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Wells Fargo, and that the little guy, because a lot of these accounts were opened in the names of just average, everyday citizens. And to this day, Wells Fargo doesn't know how much impact this thing has had on the credit ratings of all these people, and how much money these people have been charged and all that. I mean, they have no idea. At least that's what they're saying. They have no idea. And all of this ties in to Donald Trump's message about how the system is rigged, the insiders control everything, and they do. And They're just too big to jail. They're just too big to jail. If I go to Wells Fargo, steal money, I go to jail. If I'm the head of Wells Fargo and I'm overseeing a racket, I fire. Try to wrap your mind around this. You fire 5,300 employees because they're all doing this stuff. God knows how many millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. So you write a check for $185 million. That's the penalty, okay? And I'll forego my $41 million bonus. And nobody goes to jail? Nobody goes to jail? Really? If I'm Kellyanne Conway, who's head of the Trump campaign, which, by the way, I'm not, I would say to Mr. Trump, you know, this Wells Fargo thing really makes a lot of sense for you to talk about because it's right up your alley. It's everything. It epitomizes darn near everything that is wrong with our country today. The corporate, not welfare, but the banksters who on Wall Street get away with all of this stuff. Nobody goes to jail over this. If I'm Donald Trump, I'm making this one of my issues. I absolutely am making this one of my issues because the average person, you and I, we get this. We understand how we get screwed over by the insiders, the people at the top of the food chain who can hire the best lawyers, who have the best PR people, who wear the nicest suits, you know, them. They get away with this stuff. You and I can't get away with this stuff. And I hate them for it. I just hate them for it. Oh, Kimberly is right. The media sucks. They lie. What do they think? I'm watching you on the underground. I completely bypass the media and do Periscope when events happen. Rosemary McGee joining us. Rosemary McGee, for the longest time, pretty much ran the Trib, Pittsburgh Trib. Rosemary McGee, wonderful person, Peters Township. Al's joining us. Jimmy, yeah, he's from the outer boroughs, no question. Anyway, so yeah, we've got all of that. I think I covered the main points tonight. Again, the debate, it's much more nuanced, nowhere near the fireworks that people thought. Again, as I predicted, the Barack Obama thing, again, I've been telling you this for months. He had to know. There was no email from him. That's the smoking gun. That's the dog that didn't bark. And now we find out the rest of the story. He had an alias. He knew this is actually on him, not on Hillary, on him. And all these immunity deals and all the pleading the fifth and everything, not to protect Hillary. It's to protect Barack Obama. And he'll get away with this because he gets away with everything, and the establishment media is not going to do anything about it because everything is rigged. And they're all lawyers, by the way. Obama's a lawyer, and Hillary Clinton's a lawyer, and all of her associates are lawyers, and Comey's a lawyer, Loretta Lynch is a lawyer. Lawyers have rigged everything. They've rigged everything. And there are two sets of rules. As lawyer Comey, head of the FBI, has made very clear. There's one set of rules for the people at the top of the food chain, the elites, you know, lawyers, and then there are rules for the rest of us. Yeah, they're just it's just the way it is. So accept it, deal with it, whatever. All right, you can follow me on Facebook. Please do so. Also on Twitter, and it's One Dimitri Radio on Twitter. Facebook is at Dimitri with 3 I's, Dimitri. And also download any episodes. You can actually go back to the very first episode of One Dimitri Radio, which, by the way, I'm thinking of sending a link to the Broadcasting Hall of Fame or Broadcasting Museum, or probably both, and just to let them know where they can access it if they want to, you know, induct me or something like that. Hint, hint. But yeah, you can go to blogtalkradio.com. It's One Dimitri Radio and listen to any episode. It's really wonderful listening. And what's really interesting is you're going to hear how often I predicted what was going to happen. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm actually pretty good at that. I can actually see so far ahead. It's like ridiculous. Whether it's politics or this stuff, I just hear it for yourself. Don't believe me? Hear it for yourself. So we have all of that. We do this every weeknight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, blogtalkradio.com and on Facebook Live. And if you could please spread the word, share this with anyone and everyone. The more people who know about this, the better. Of course, I'd appreciate it greatly. Now we're going to play the interview. When I say we, I mean me. play the interview. Kathy Lynn Taylor, Kathy with a C. She is the author of Red is the New Black, and she gives great radio. There's no question about it. We'll do that, and then we'll end with our emoji grand finale. Unless you have questions for me, dear Facebook friends, you can write them now, and I'll try to answer them for you, either about the debate or about pretty much anything else. I'd be happy to do that. And if nobody has any questions or whatever, we'll just do the emoji grand finale. I've got the music all queued up here on my iPhone, so we'll be good to go.